And welcome into the Fantasy 4-Pack's weekly countdown show, part 2, where we're bringing you guys the second half of Week 1's matchups here. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, Frankie Santiago, and we are going to be filming this in the middle of the Thursday game, so we have some...
More at the end, but, you know.
As the Thursday game is in progress.
Oh, sure.
So we do have some... fairly up-to-date news as far as what's going on and everything. Speaking of which, a few quick items to go over. We'll start with one that came out of this game. Michael Gallup left this game with an ankle injury and was questionable to return. I haven't seen anything that suggested otherwise as of yet. As far as I know, he did not return to the field.
Hate to see it.
I mean, it doesn't really affect much.
He's not a huge blow to fantasy, but he's a solid weapon for Dallas, and he's somebody that I would like to see put together a solid campaign and maybe move on to another team that would enjoy his services.
Sure. I mean, that's fair. Speaking of another guy who we were all kind of excited to see and now don't get to, the Ravens locker room is cursed. It's built on a Native American graveyard, or maybe
they hired doctors from Philadelphia.
Yes, or they hired doctors from Philadelphia, or perhaps they opened some long sealed cursed box in there. I don't know, but there is something going on in that locker room because. My, oh my, they can't keep a running back. They need to bubble wrap Tyson Williams now.
Yep.
What do you mean? They have Le'Veon Bell now. They're saved.
Yeah.
I mean, they already had Le'Veon Bell. But
they're saved.
They did sign Devonta Freeman today. News came out during the Buccaneers Dallas game that they are also working on finalizing a deal with Latavius Murray, which we kind of all expected.
Yeah. Especially after that I was talking to Brad about earlier.
And
so he's just going to get signed now, right?
In case you are living on a rock, we're referring to the fact that Gus Bus did tear his ACL. So
yes,
he is done for the season.
Confirmed ACL tear.
Yeah.
Marcus Peters also tore his ACL, I think at the same time from how it was reported.
Back-to-back plays.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like I said, cursed locker room. Either that or they have Tanya Harding MD out there
straight from Philly. Just rub some rocks on it, it'll be good.
But let's go ahead and assess this Ravens running back room for at least the running backs that are still there. Obviously, currently, it's Tyson Williams' job. When Latavius Murray goes there, do you guys expect him to? I mean, it's probably gonna be Tyson this week because I doubt Latavius Murray would be able to just step in and go. But do you guys expect Latavius Murray to take this job? We know he's a very capable running back in his own right, coming off one of his most productive seasons ever last year.
Latavius, I like him as a player. I've always he's found his way onto my rosters quite a few years, but I honestly feel like if his previous contract wasn't worth it to the Saints and they're willing to cut him over it, I feel like there's a good chance. I think it's going to be the battle for second place because I feel like they like Tyson.
Also, that's a ball game. Tampa Bay wins 31-29.
Kicked a field goal.
Kicked a field goal.
Nice. Anyways.
Dallas starts 0-1. Everything's right in the world.
Tyson Williams seems to be their favorite back. I feel like this is just going to be what veteran back can take the second job, and maybe they steal it, but I think it's Tyson's job to lose right now.
I agree with that. I mean, there was a reason why Latavius Murray was released by the Saints. I mean,
there was. It was entirely money and not talent related.
I'm pretty sure that was a $3 million contract, so I mean...
They did use that money to immediately sign a cornerback.
But, that being said, we have seen that he's a very capable guy before on good teams. And, I mean, we know the Ravens are no stranger to running the football, so I could see him sliding into that 2 spot and maybe, I mean, depending how Tyson Williams does, taking the job even.
So I am opposite you guys entirely. Tyson Williams, for all of his talent, he was third on the depth chart behind J.K. Dobbins, behind Gus Bus. I believe he was an undrafted free agent. I have no expectations for this kid. I liked him in the starting job because he seemed like the Ravens believed in him. He seemed decently explosive in camp, but he is still a UDFA who was a third stringer 2 weeks ago. Latavius Murray is a proven running back in this league. Like I said, I maybe he takes a week or two to acclimate, but I think if they sign Latavius Murray, once he is ready to go, we've seen him be very good on a multitude of teams. I mean, like I said, last year he had a very good year with the Saints for the limited work that he got. 146 carries, 656 yards, 4 touchdowns, average 4.5 a clip. He did almost the same exact thing the year before. Like, I think it's I don't think the Ravens bring in a guy like Latavius Murray if they aren't planning on giving him the reins to the starting job.
Yeah, it's
because he's not just an old washed-up veteran like Devonta Freeman or Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I mean, either way, whoever has that starting job, it's the Ravens running back room. There's going to be more than enough running for everybody in there.
Sure.
And by that, I mean all 2 of them.
I mean, also, to be fair, realistically, they're both going to have fantasy relevance. We were drafting Gus Bus before the Dobbins injury because he had fantasy relevance.
Yeah.
So they run enough in that locker room that it's Tyson Williams isn't going to be left for dead, but I do expect him to be the 1B if Murray goes in there.
Yeah, I said for me, I'm just completely on the other side of the fence because I think we saw the Saints showed their hands and they liked Tony Jones Jr. much more than him, so that's why they stepped up, said, hey, give us a pay cut. He said no. They let him go. He had been plodding along in that job where we'd seen other more prolific backs kind of excel. So I think they were looking to find that Mark Ingram again, and I think he is a serviceable back, but at the end of the day, I would not be surprised if Latavius Murray takes over the job. I think this is, as I said, I think this is Tyson's to lose, but he has a very short lease. So he has to basically play well every week to keep that job.
Sure. And then finally, Austin Eckler missed practice again with that hamstring tweak. So definitely a little more worrying if it's 2 days in a row. Hopefully he is just, being given the veteran pass and he gets out there on Sunday, but we'll have to see. And then this one actually did send up some warning flares with a player that I was already heavy fading anyway. But Julio Jones and Tannehill are apparently still working to make a connection. Quote from Tannehill said there was still a lot of work to be done when it comes to making a connection on the field. I don't love it.
Yeah, obviously you never love to hear that a guy who's supposed to be like a 4th, 5th round receiver, so some people's wide receiver 2 potentially, or even wide receiver 1 if you went really deep at running back. You never like to hear that he's not working well with the quarterback, because that's a great way to get yourself your target share down. Especially when you have A.J. Brown, who was away from practice for so long, you figured that...
Well, Julio was also missed quite a bit of training camp with an injury,
So I would say it's like that doesn't help. It's like you're 1A there, because we were hoping for a 1A, 1B situation, and this could be an ugly one. Like I was already hoping that just the talent of Julio being one of the best receivers to ever step on the field would just kind of carry him through, but I think we might be underplaying the fact that he's had one quarterback his whole career, and they gelled, and then he never really had to work on a connection again. So this is just something new for him. For me, this is a reason right here where I was kind of fading him.
As I recall, you were both Julio supporters. Hey, Mr. Fence Sitter right here, playing both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I still liked him. I still liked him for Tannehill, but like I said, where he was going, it's just, like I said, we could play the game 4th, 5th round. There's a lot of receivers I like.
Frankie, pull the tape.
Go ahead. But like I said, Deontay, Kupp, T. Higgins, like there's so many guys in that round that I would rather just take the upside on.
Yeah, no, like I said, to me, I hear this news and I'm glad that I was as hard a fade on him as I was. I don't want any part of a 4th round receiver who is not set with his quarterback going into the season. We know that bond can take time to develop. It might be 4 or 5 weeks until he gets it going, and then it's still low passing volume attack. To me, if I'm a Julio manager, I'm trying to trade him right now, see if I can get maybe a little more exciting guy before this news becomes confirmed and he goes out there and lays an egg on Sunday.
Sure.
All right. Well, are you guys ready to dive into the meat of the show?
Let's do it.
Nope.
Bear with me here. My tablet is not actually letting me pull up the odds. It's just doing the constant refreshing thing. I believe our next matchup was
Chargers?
No.
Washington Chargers?
No, we ended with that one. I believe we were on to Vikings.
Yeah, on my screen it's Minnesota, Cincinnati.
Yes,
Yeah,
Vikings,
that's
Cincinnati. So let's lead in with that. Frankie, do you have the line for that one?
Minnesota is favored by 3. For some reason, I'm muted.
So what's the line?
The over/under is 47.
47, and you said Minnesota's the
Minnesota's
favorite by 3. And are they at home or away?
Minnesota's away in this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means they're basically kind of a 6-point favorite. So for this one, I think I'm keeping it simple. I like this one, but I could see it. If Minnesota can get their defense together, which has been a talking point around the team, a huge thing that they wanted to fix up, is getting this defense back to at least being a serviceable defense as opposed to the garbage it was last year.
Sure.
I can see this one be on the low scoring side. This is one I'm interested to see just because, like I said, mainly I want to see what this Minnesota passing attack is like. Because as much as I love Justin Jefferson, I want to see that we're not going to have a week 1 of last year where it's the third quarter and Kirk's only thrown the ball 3 times.
That was hilarious.
It was terrible if you were a Thielen owner.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously you're starting Justin Jefferson, you're starting Dalvin Cook. I think Kirk is streamable in this one because the total is high enough that I'm at least interested in. The Bengals defense sucks. I'm not worried about them slowing down this Vikings attack. As far as streamable guys on the Vikings or maybe middle of the road guys, are you starting Thielen in this matchup?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll start Thielen.
What do you guys? So I'm looking at the Vikings defense. Honestly, probably my favorite defense to use in DFS this week. They're sitting at 3K. They could take advantage of a Burrow back from his first start since his ACL injury. Jamar Chase looks like he has the yips from sitting out for a year from football. He's going to take some time shaking off the rust, I think.
Yeah, I could see this being a very swingy defense where enough people, because of the hype around the Bengals this year,
Yeah.
I can see people seeing the Vikings and be like, nope, not touching that terrible defense. And them being a surprise for you and a nice contrarian pick in DFS.
Also keep in mind, this is a defense that has regularly been very good over the course of, Mike Zimmer's he's a really good defensive coach, and he was pissed that his defense was bad last year.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, there was a reason why, if you go back to the tape, I was talking about the Vikings defense so much last year. I'm like, this was one of the best defenses with one of the best lines, and they added Ngakwe.
Yeah. It just never really gelled.
It just never gelled, and they parted ways, which I think was the smart thing to do. But like I said, the Vikings they're like the Bears. They kind of just figure out defense.
Something about that, that NFC North division, just like Lions oftentimes have at least a serviceable defense. Bears and Vikings are usually pretty good. The Packers have been really good. It's just a tough division.
It's just it's what the fans expect, so it's what the team's built for. They want those hard grinder teams.
Bengals side of the ball, what are you guys doing with this one? I think the only people you have to roll out in this matchup are Mixon because of running back shortages and where you drafted him, and then T. Higgins.
Yeah, those are my only must starts. I mean, depending where you drafted Chase,
Well, no, wide receiver is deep enough that you should be able to sit Chase this week.
Honestly, way I'm looking at this one, if you want to start T. Higgins in your flex, I'm not against it, especially with the dearth of running backs. So you could be in a place where you don't really have a good RB3, or you did, and then Gus Bus or one of the other ones went down. I would be fine with Tyler Boyd. He's already shown he's solid enough. He's going to not kill your team, whereas Jamar Chase, let me get some tape on that kid first. I want to see what he's like before I roll him into my roster.
I think that he's gonna be fine over the balance of the season, but I'm kind of in that same boat where it's like I may think he's going to be okay at the end of the year, but beginning of the year, like I say, he couldn't catch a cold in training camp.
Yeah.
And
this is also when rookies are their slowest. Like the first 3 weeks, as we saw with Justin Jefferson, a lot of other rookies, the first few weeks are the roughest for receivers.
Sure. Yeah, like, I don't know. He's just like, he looked uninspiring, to say the least, in training camp. I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get it figured out, but you don't want to be relying on him week 1 and have a couple balls break off his hands, then no more passes go his way.
Yep.
Are you streaming Joe Burrow in this one? Do you think that the passing volume is going to be high enough that you can get a serviceable start out of him?
I think they're going to need to throw the ball a lot.
Right, but are you worried the Vikings defense is going to pick Burrow a few times and ruin a good QB start?
No, I'm fine with it. Especially if you need a guy who's streaming. I mean,
he's honestly lower on my list just because he seemed to have a bit of the yips coming into training camp early this offseason.
Sure.
He had a pretty horrific knee injury, so I mean he looked good in camp. The bits we've seen of him look good. But he's another one I want to see some tape on. I want to see how he moves in the pocket. I want to see how he does under pressure. I want to see what happens when he has to force the ball out. I want to see just a week of film before I'm comfortable rolling him out. I would much rather go with a less flashy, veteran that I know exactly what I'm going to get.
Maybe get him against a softer defense a little bit later down the road.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't think I have much else to talk about for this matchup from a redraft perspective. Is there anything you guys wanted to highlight in this one?
Nope.
Anything for DFS for you guys want to talk about in this one?
No. Like I said, this one, I'm just avoiding Burrow at the start. I might flex. Like I said,
I will say T. Higgins 4,700 on DraftKings this week.
Yeah,
so that's a very attractive price.
Exactly,
very affordable,
as opposed to Adam Thielen's 7,000.
Huh?
Yeah, that's gross. I would not pay that for Thielen this week.
Nope.
All right, let's jump to the next one here. Frankie, I'm sorry, my list did get scrambled, but I'm fairly certain we talked about the Eagles and the Falcons already, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we have the Jaguars and the Texans up next.
Yes, we do.
The Jaguars! All righty. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this from a fantasy perspective. Not from the Houston side of the ball, but I think there's some sneaky plays on the Jaguars side of the ball this week because the Houston Texans are going to be putrid. I'll just lead right in with the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence is a great streaming option this week because while I don't love rookie QBs, I think you need to give them some time to get acclimated for fantasy purposes. He is getting about as close to a college defense as you can in the NFL.
Yeah, true.
So he's got good weapons. Like I could see him going out there and scoring 2 or 3 times, putting up 250, maybe 300 yards. Especially with this Jaguars running game just not being that prolific with Travis Etienne down. We're back to James Robinson, who Urban Meyer clearly doesn't believe in. Otherwise, he wouldn't have drafted Travis Etienne and Carlos Hyde. Like they're going to throw it.
Yeah,
Urban Meyer's showing his hand.
Trevor Lawrence is actually one of the guys that I like. I mean, is the streaming. I mean, we just talked about Burrow, but
yeah,
I think that this is a
Frankie. From my takeaway from what we've talked about with quarterbacks so far is that you like roughly everyone as a streaming quarterback this week.
Yes, I do. It's week 1. You're getting some tape somewhere. But yeah, no, I'm kind of under the same impression that you are, that they're just gonna throw the ball a lot. I mean, James Robinson. I mean, he's gonna get his carries because he's pretty much the only guy there now.
Yeah,
I mean, Carlos Hyde, his journeyman.
Honestly, it's not going to shock me if it's like a 60-40 split between them. If we see at the end of this week that Carlos Hyde and James Robinson have very similar snap counts and carry percentages, I'm not going to be surprised.
I kind of would. Like I said, Hyde's been around and he's not too proven. I understand that yes, they went out and got ETN, but it's just if you don't believe him, why not just use him like a workhorse until your real running back comes back next year? It's kind of one of those things like they're not going for a title, so it's not like they have to save the tread on the tires, so to speak.
Sure.
And I think this is one where it's going to be first half is going to be passing attack, and then they should be able to just kind of mail it in with the running and just let James Robinson run as much as he wants. And just kind of go out there. So, like I said, I like most of the weapons on the Jaguars side.
The Jaguars.
No, Marvin Jones probably one of my favorite sneaky picks in this one.
What do you
He's
guys,
all right.
What are you guys thinking on the other side of the ball, though?
Oh, no one. I mean, this is a 45-point total. The Jaguars are 3-point road favorites. The Jaguars are 3-point road favorites. Like, the total's not high enough for me to care about Texans. I think the Jaguars are going to score some points, and if they get scored through the air, Trevor Lawrence probably going to have a nice day, and one or two of the receivers might have a nice day. Maybe I start Brandon Cooks in this one from the Texans side of the ball, but
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
honestly, if you tell me that you're interested in streaming the Jaguars defense against the Texans, I'm not going to call you crazy.
It's a bit bold, but there is still some talent, especially in their linebacking core. They've made some great draft picks there.
I mean, every year we have a team where you start your defense against them. I think it's the Texans this year, and it's just, it always looks weird out of the gates to start bad defenses against a, bad offense or a putrid offense. But middle of the season, people are recommending those kind of matchups. I think if you believe the Texans are going to be the worst team in the NFL, the worst offense in the NFL, you got to call your shot. And if you need a streaming defense, I guarantee you the Jaguars are out there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the process is there. The work behind it is there, so it makes sense. There's just a part of my mind where I'm like, yeah, I'm starting the Jags defense away.
I do love them more in DFS than in redraft. I will say that because in DFS they're 2,700, which is anytime I can get a sub 3K defense with solid turnover upside, I'm interested.
Yeah.
We know that Tyrod Taylor does not throw the ball. He also doesn't run the ball very well. Really, he's just bad at moving an offense. So I believe he averages like maybe 20 passing attempts a game over his career. So I'm not terribly worried about him doing damage to the Jaguars. We kind of jumped off this point onto the defense, but are there any Texans that you're willing to start that aren't named Brandon Cooks?
I
know it's a tough question, right? You're like, do I really want to? Is this the hill I want to die on?
Like, for me, this is another one where it's like I like Phillip Lindsay is like a very deep play for some leagues, but this is one where I'd rather just hold Lindsay and let him slowly take the job because I think he can. But it's just there's not much there because the passing attack's going to be garbage. So one of the best things for the Jags, as I was saying, is their linebacking core. You have Miles Jack out there who's just a multi-tool at the position. And if there's anything they're going to be able to stop, it's the little short, dinky passes across the middle. Like that's going to be their best attack.
Which I believe is all they can throw.
Exactly.
All right, so start no one on the Texans, start everyone on the Jaguars. I like it. Except for DJ Chark. We don't like him. Moving to the 4:00 games, our hometown game here. Miami Dolphins are coming to New England, playing the Mac Jones-led Patriots. 43.5-point total. It's a real low one here, boys. Dolphins are 3-point dogs in this tilt. I'm unsure of how to properly express my feelings about this one because I am not interested at all from a fantasy perspective, but from a New England fan, I'm like, oh boy, we get to see if Mac Jones can actually do anything or if he was a bozo pick. Like, Miami's a tough defense. We all know that. Like, they're going to come in here. They're going to be a good test for the rookie. On the other side of the ball, Tua might as well be a rookie coming into Foxborough. We know Belichick's record against rookies.
Yep.
This Patriots defense, even with Gilmore out, they really upped their game in the offseason. They signed a bunch of impact guys. I think this is just going to be a rock fight. Like I don't see either offense doing anything prolific.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. Belichick's ideal scoreline for the game is 3-0 New England, and that's it.
Yeah.
I am completely uninterested from a fantasy perspective in this game.
There is one spot I'm interested in.
So I'm curious to see if it's the same spot that I am because there is one player that I'm also interested in this game. But who is it that you're interested in?
Potentially two, but the number one, just because once again there is no tight ends. I'm interested in Jonnu Smith for this one.
Yep, he's my guy.
That's probably about it. Like I said,
So to expand on that point, I think the biggest reason I'm in on Jonah is the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a good defense. The weakest part of their defense is their linebacking core. Jonu's a great receiver. He can take the ball out of the backfield. But he is a big kid. He should be able to have his way with this linebacking core. I don't know where you guys ended up having him, but I have Jonu projected as the target leader on this Patriots team. I think Jonu's going to surprise people this week. I think Jonu's going to go out there and be like, "Hey guys, remember me? I'm actually a good tight end," and people are going to be like, "Should have ranked him higher."
Yeah, it was basically me going back and forth with who was getting the most targets between him and Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
And like I said, Jacoby Myers was the other one. I was like, maybe you play him, but it's not. Like I said, there's not much confidence there.
I think you should have better options than Jacoby Myers to play this week.
Yes. So you even go back to it, like 2-3 seasons ago, Bill Belichick was saying that Jonnu Smith was one of the best tight ends in the league, just flat.
He is. I mean, have you seen the size of his neck muscles?
Yeah, like he was just flat out calling him one of the best. Gronk was just out of the league, but you still had Travis Kelce, you still had a whole bunch of other great tight ends, and he's calling this guy the best. And now he's under his roof, and he can scheme up plays, which he clearly is doing because he's having him come out of the backfield. He's moving them all over the place.
I mean, to be fair, we've seen Jono do that in Tennessee. I remember, I think it was last year, he vultured a Derrick Henry touchdown, much to the chagrin of the Derrick Henry manager in our league.
Yeah. But he, like I said, he's such a force, and I feel like Belichick's like, I know exactly how to use that guy.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be great. I think people are gonna be very surprised about. I think this is going to be Jonnu, the start of Jonnu's tight end one season. He's one of the handful of tight ends that I have pegged as really like A+ breakout potential this season. And this is a great first matchup for him. I would not at all be surprised if he has a stellar stat line to end the week. I've got him in a couple leagues. He's in as my starting tight end in every league I have him this week.
Yeah. And one other thing to kind of point out, if you're not quite sold on him yet, we have a rookie quarterback going against a good defense with subpar wide receivers. Like, they're solid, but they're not great. So when he gets out there and he's not used to having guys who are like 10 feet open, like when he's got like Jalen Waddle and all them going against college D-backs.
Yeah.
And he's looking around trying to find somebody open, and he just sees Jonnu.
Well, Mac Jones isn't going to be throwing to Jalen Waddle.
No, I'm talking when he played in college.
Oh, yeah.
When Jalen Waddle was like a whole 4 people ahead of everyone.
Yes.
Like when he had all these guys, Jerry Jeudy and whatnot, that he could just be like, oh, I just have to put it in the state he's in. Like when he looks out in the field and he sees all these guys just blanketed and Jonnu's just right over the middle, easy little just whoop.
So let me ask you this: if you're Frankie, we haven't got your opinion on Jonnu yet, but are you in on Jonnu as well? See or no? Yeah, cool.
Thumbs up, yeah.
Are we at all interested in Hunter Henry this week? Mm-mm. Let's say you really punted tight end. You need a spot start. Are you rolling Hunter Henry out there and just trusting the matchup?
I think I'd rather go. I think there's a lot of other tight ends I'd rather go that you can get out there. Like I'd rather go Gerald Everett, who went undrafted in all our leagues. I think there's Chris Herndon just got traded to the Vikings. I'd rather roll him out there. Like the Patriots are still a run-first team. That's how they're schemed up. And as Frankie was saying, they want to win 3-0. So there's not a lot of points to go around.
I mean, to be fair, Belichick loves running. Belichick just wants the other team to score 0. If Belichick scores 100, he's just as happy as if he scores 3.
He's not doing it the flashy, down the field, to the X receiver.
Yeah, he just kind of ends up in the 5-yard line. He's like, all right, well, I guess we'll score.
So I'm actually of the opinion that the Hunter Henry is a fine spot start this week. If you really if you missed on all the other flashy guys, I'm fine rolling Hunter Henry out there this week just because the matchup's good. We know New England likes to use the tight ends. I think that we said this back when they signed these guys that we expect a lot of 2 tight end sets, and it's kind of to what you were saying when with this Dolphins pass rush coming in, Mac Jones is going to be looking to dump the ball off. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are humongous. Hunter Henry is 6'5". Jonnu is 6'3". Like when he's looking to dump the ball off, he's going to see one of these 2 giants running down the field. He's just going to throw it at them. Like I think that's my biggest reason for why I'm fine rolling him out there if you missed on some of those other guys.
I guess, like I said, in certain situations, yes, you could talk me into it, but I feel like I'd rather go and shoot for a little bit more upside than Hunter. Just 'cause I feel
He's definitely not my first choice.
right. I feel like, like I said, I feel like there's a couple more out there that I could go and try and talk myself into a little bit over Hunter.
Okay, so I mean, Tyler Conklin or Hunter Henry. New Vikings tight end. He stepped in after Irv Smith went down.
No, because I don't. I think it's gonna be Chris Herndon.
Tyler Kroft or Hunter Henry. Tyler Kroft is the tight end in New York after they traded Chris Herndon.
I'll roll the dice on Croft there.
I might roll the dice on Kroft.
Let's go to the other side of the football. Gesicki or Hunter.
Oh yeah, I'll do Gesicki.
If I have to pick one, I don't like either of them, but I would go Gesicki.
Juwan Johnson or Hunter Henry. Adam Troutman was declared active, but he was also active in the preseason, and he was a blocking tight end. So,
I think I'd go Hunter Henry there.
Dan Arnold or Hunter Henry.
Probably Hunter Henry.
Okay, so the line is like Juwan Johnson.
Yeah.
So he's like your tight end 19.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess just to close this point out, obviously we're starting the defenses in this tilt, but to close this point out, are you starting any Dolphins aside from Myles Gaskin? Waddle went late enough that you should have other options. You might have to start Gesicki just because
tight end.
Yeah, that's pretty much my line is Gesicki.
But like the Patriots don't have bad linebackers. I'm not thrilled to start Gesicki.
Yeah, Dolphins for me, they are roster if I have to, but figure out a way to let me get a week and see what they're looking like.
Sure. Cleveland Browns, Kansas City Chiefs in what I believe is the highest total of the week, 54.5. I actually think it came down half point. I believe it was at 55 earlier this week.
It is the highest total.
Love this matchup. Can't stress enough how excited I am to have this game on the television. Cleveland Browns go into Arrowhead. They're 5-point dogs. They're going to be chasing Kansas City this whole game. We are going to get to see what this Cleveland Browns team is made of real fast this season. This game is going to be a fantasy point bonanza, I think. I am perfectly comfortable. Ooh, speaking of fantasy point bonanzas, Austin Hooper or Hunter Henry?
Hooper.
Okay. Speaking of fantasy point bonanzas, the Chiefs are surprisingly a limited team this week as far as like who I would actually want to start. I think we know the Chiefs that we are starting, and there are no real options outside of them. Unless you guys disagree, I think we should just talk about the Browns here.
Yeah, this is very straightforward.
It's studs and duds.
It's studs and duds.
So the Cleveland Browns are interesting to me this week because they have a lot of question marks as to where their fantasy points are coming from. Obviously, Nick Chubb is a smash start. You lock him in. You pretend that you never even thought about it. Wide receiver, what are we doing? I mean, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. Do you start both of them?
Yeah, they're gonna need to throw.
So. What about Donovan Peoples-Jones? Any deeper receivers?
I think
1 and 2, and that's it.
For me, it's
players.
It's those two because although the Chiefs looked good against the pass last year, or at least people say they did. I mean, the stats were kind of middle of the road.
Sure.
But I think that they're kind of like a worse version of Cleveland, where Cleveland was good against the pass. And I mean, I'm going out there and I'm still starting my guys against Cleveland every week. It's the number.
You're not scared of the Chiefs' defense.
No, it's looking at the eyeball test. I have no problem starting those two guys.
Sure.
Because I think that they're going to get theirs. It's the other guys, like, kind of on that Peoples-Jones, Nicole Hardman level, where I'm just like, I can do without those.
I do love me some Austin Hooper this week. Tight ends had a lot of success against Kansas City last season. Hooper seemed to be gelling a bit as the season went along with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was the second best quarterback over the second half of last season. He's actually very interesting to me this week. He might be my favorite my favorite streaming quarterback this week as I've started diving into this slate. Between the total and just the fact that Baker looked vastly improved over the second half of last season. Now he's had a whole offseason in Stefanski's system. I do think that Stefanski is one of the more talented coaches in the league, probably top 7, if not top 5. I am. If I am looking to stream, if I drafted Trey Lance, Baker is probably the guy that if he's still on the wire, I'm trying to get him into my lineup to just take advantage of what should be a shootout.
Yeah. For me, I said 4. I guess it's 5 because I would start Hooper. But for me, like I said, it's the very obvious 4, and that's really all I'm looking for. I'm not sure. While I do think this is going to be a shootout, I think the points are very obvious when it comes to Cleveland, and that's Chubb, it's Hunt, it's Landry, and it's Beckham. And that's what I'm looking for. Tight end is tight end, so Hooper makes it in there.
Sure, you'll start him if you need a tight end.
Yeah.
So are you guys both against streaming Baker in this one if you need a streaming quarterback?
No, I mean Baker. I mean I'm more of a bigger Baker guy than you guys are. Towards the end of last year, he didn't look bad, and
I mean you're couching a little bit there, Frank. He was literally graded out as the second best quarterback over the second half of last season. He actually had an excellent end of the year.
All right, so then I guess my question to you guys is why is everybody so down on him then?
They don't throw enough.
Yeah, it's a run-first system. They were throwing more over the second half of last year, but I and I think a lot of other people don't really project them to be a passing offense this year. If they evolve into it, happy surprise.
Yeah, like I said, I look at him the same way I look at the Buffalo running backs, where there's points to be had, but the team doesn't play towards them, so their ceiling is limited. And this is an exception to that rule because they're going to have to play up to Kansas City's speed unless they somehow miraculously, quick Chubb touchdown and then they somehow strangle out one of the best offenses.
I mean,
and slow them down.
To be fair, for a quick Chubb touchdown is totally on the realm of possibility here. Chubb is among Chubb's many talents. He is great at breaking off long runs.
Oh yeah, like I said, that's why that wasn't the if it could happen part. It's the strangling them out.
Yeah,
because ideally they want to win similar to how the Patriots want to win. They want to score early and then dictate tempo, and that's not a recipe for great quarterback fantasy points.
Sure. I think really the spot to because obviously you probably don't have a lot of Browns on your team, just with how they're being drafted this season. You probably have 1 or 2 maybe. I think the best spot to target Browns this week is actually on DraftKings. I've been making a couple test lineups so far, just kind of playing with what I want to do as far as stacks and run backs and all that. And this is one of my favorite games to play with. I don't know if you guys looked at this at all yet, but I mean, the most expensive Browns receiver is $6K, and it's Landry. Odell Beckham's 5'4", Hooper's $4K. I mean, you can get Baker Mayfield in for $5.9, and then because of the cheapness of all those Browns, you can easily get an 8.2 Tyreek Hill or an 8K Travis Kelce in there to run it back. I think this is a pretty pretty smash spot for DK this week, and because it's the Browns. Honestly, I think this could be a bit of a sneaky spot because for whatever reason, people just don't target Browns receiving options.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
I haven't taken too much of a deep dive into it, but I agree with the sentiment. People do overlook the Browns receivers. Landry's always been the guy who's just been around. That's why he's always going the 7th, 8th round. And Beckham is he's the redheaded stepchild this year, and nobody wants to be the one holding the bag with Beckham. They want Higgins and all the other young talent that's coming up, and this is his prove it year. He's got to prove that he deserves to be one of those top, most popular receivers, and most people are on the side of he's going to wash.
Sure. All right, let's jump to the next matchup on our slate here. We've got the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints at a 49.5 point total. Saints are 3.5 point home dogs, which I think is insulting to Jameis Winston, but I'll let it slide. I'm honestly pretty excited for this one too, if only because I get to see my boy Jameis Winston out there in the it feels weird to say black and gold because I guess that's what it just feels like I'm talking about the Steelers, or the Bruins. But out there in the black and gold, just slinging it for Sean Payton. Marquez Callaway was kind of a surprise addition to fantasy draft boards going into the final couple weeks of the draft season, thanks to a stellar preseason performance.
Yep.
I think that the line is, as joking as I was off the bat, I think the line is pretty fair. They're giving the Saints a lot of credit here for the lack of weapons that they have.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Saints are, if they're going to win, their defense is going to kind of have to lead the way to start, while their offense finds its, gel and kind of figures itself out. They did just trade for a cornerback from the Texans, further weakening the Texans' just lack of talent, which I thought was a great move for them. So when I look at this line, honestly, this is a very simple, for redraft, this is a very simple game for me. Starting my studs. And I think the only one who's like outside of stud range, I'd say, is Tunyon. I like Tunyon for this one, just to see if he can keep up that.
You're saying for the Packers?
Oh yeah, just like I said, both sides. It's mostly just studs for both sides, and the only ones I would say for flexing. I mean, I'm not yet ready to roll Tony Jones Jr. into the flex yet. I want to see how he looks. Marquez Callaway, once again, I want to see him in a real game, because preseason we've seen flashes in the pan all the time.
So I will say, just because while it's good to get tape, we do have to take stances on players. Let's because if you draft a Marquez Callaway, you were spending a
12th.
Yeah, not a substantial pick on him, but at least a potential breakout pick on him. You might have been taking him instead of a Jalen Waddle, or maybe if you were really reaching on him, maybe instead of a Will Fuller or somebody. If you have to start him in the flex this week, are you comfortable rolling him out there? I mean, high total, Jameis slings it. Kid looked talented.
Yes, like I said, he presents a better upside than most people, just because of the fact that it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. They're going to need to air it out to win. Jameis loves to do that. Callaway seemed to have a good connection with him. Like, it's all there. It's just, ideally, I'm not rolling out guys I'm drafting that deep already, and I'm trying to roll in the guys that I drafted rounds 1 through 7, round 1 through 8, ideally. So it's one of those things where I got to see it. Whereas, like, yes, there's a few people that I'm like, oh, I want to see tape, but this is something that's exclusive to week 1, where I want to see, because we can talk about all day how we think this is going to run. Good example tonight. A lot of people were saying the Cowboys are going to shift to a little bit more of a run focus, because they want to make sure Dak is fully healthy. They don't want to put too much pressure on the guy that they just signed, and yet Dak threw the ball 60 times. And they ran it about, I think, barely 20.
I think for me it's more of I guess less of a Marcus Callaway coach. I mean, I'm fine if I need a guy in my flex to roll him out there. The Packers secondary, for as good as they looked last year, they're going against a running back in Alvin Kamara where he can work out of the backfield.
I mean, to be fair, also, Jair Alexander only plays one side of the field. He has in shadow, so.
Well, I mean, it was, what the point I was going to make was that they can't just ignore the running back. They're going to have to, pay attention to what Kamara is doing.
Sure.
And, I mean, like I said, I'm fine starting Callaway in my flex if I need it. I'm just are you guys starting MVS or Lazard here? Or Randall Cobb?
No, that for me, the wide receiver 2 position is too muddled in Green Bay, where it's not even that there's not even a guy that there's some sentiment behind this might be the 2. Like, there's legitimately 4 guys there who all could be the 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm under the same impression. I tried to avoid them as much as I could.
Like, they drafted Amari Rodgers. They traded for Randall Cobb. They still have Lazard and MVS. Like, it's just too. That's one where I do agree. It's like, let's just see it shake out.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I mean, as many touchdowns as Aaron Rodgers might throw this year, I mean, I see Adams, and I don't know where the rest are coming from.
Adams, Jones, Tunyon. I can see all their touchdowns basically going through those guys.
So I guess I'm curious, because I think Marquez Callaway and also Juwan Johnson, I assume you guys are fine rolling him out there as a tight end streamer.
If I really need him, like as I said, I might probably go Hunter Henry over him.
Sure.
So
for Marquez Callaway, 'cause I'm curious where you guys actually have him pegged. I'm just going to read him off against a couple other wide receivers here. Marquez or Debo?
Debo.
Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Marquez or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
Marquez or Devontae Parker?
Marquez
Can I
Callaway.
sit both of them?
No.
Marquez Callaway.
Marquez or Brandon Cooks?
Cooks.
Marquez or Jacoby Myers?
Myers. I'll take Myers there.
I will go with Callaway.
Okay, let's do one more here then. Marquez or Jamar Chase?
Marquez.
I got to stand by the take I made earlier, so Marquez.
So you guys are more in on Marquez Callaway than you thought you were. I like that.
Well, yeah, but like I said, but then when you talk about, let's talk about guys who you drafted in the 7th round who should be your wide receiver 3s. Like, I'm going with all of them over these guys.
As I was trying to, I was going to read off guys in his price range, but his price range is 3.4K on DraftKings.
Right.
So there really is no one in his price range.
Because like I said, think about it. As people who we all wanted to go triple running back, whether it worked in some drafts or not, you could go triple running back, take a tight end in the 4th, and then in the 5th, 6th, 7th, you could take wide receivers. And your 7th wide, and the guy you take in the 7th wide receiver is Landry. I'll take Landry all day over Callaway.
Sure. Denver Broncos, New York Giants are the next one on the slate here. This one's going to be another rock fight. 42-point total. Giants are 3-point home dogs. Love the Broncos defense in this one. I'm just going to lead in with that because I think I think the Broncos defense is the best play in this game.
Yeah, because as I'll eat crow for, I said, hey, there's no way somebody fumbles that many times and turns the ball over that many times 2 years in a row. It has to be anomalous. But no.
Well, you know what they say, 3's a charm.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Danny Dimes, they said there's nobody that has been just so high and so low so fast. Like, right before last year, he was a fantasy darling. They're like, oh, look at all the weapons. He could put it together. He could be like Eli, but better. And then it just didn't work out. And now people are like, oh, he might just be bad.
It's because he has the face of Eli Manning and the turnover skills of Eli Manning.
In the first 3 quarters. And he lacks the 4th quarter takeover.
He has the face of Eli Manning, the turnover skills of Eli Manning. And that's it. Yeah, he's bad. The only Giant I am begrudgingly starting this week is Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And even that, I'm like I have Saquon in a couple leagues, but like there still is no guarantee he's 100%. And if he is, there's no guarantee he's getting a full workload. Like I'm staring at Saquon in a couple leagues, being like, ooh, do I bench him? Because I drafted deep running back in basically every league where I have Saquon. So like I've got Raheem Mostert or Damian Harris in a lot of these leagues where I've got him. It's like, do I just sit him for one of these guys?
You can't.
You
really
can.
Can't.
I'm considering doing it, but it's tough. It's a hard. I think that's one where if fantasy managers want to put Saquon on the bench this week, especially if news comes out that he's not going to be getting a full workload, I'm okay with that because this Broncos defense is elite. They might finish the season as the number 1 fantasy defense.
Yeah, they are no slouches over there in Denver. I, again, agree with you. If I can Saquon, I probably am.
Passing offense for the Broncos. We're obviously not starting Teddy Bridgewater in this one. The total's too low. He's not going to throw enough to make any hay. I'm not super interested in really any of the wide receivers in this one. If I can't, I'm looking for better options than Judy and Sutton. If I have to start one of them, it's Judy. But
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
And I'm out on Noah Fant this week.
I'm more okay with it just because we know how turnover-prone Danny Dimes are, so we could see a lot of short fieldage. And like I said, Cortland Sutton seems like he's starting to get his mojo back. So if you got to flex him, I'm fine with him. He's one of my like mid-tier flex plays for me. Judy, I think
the total's just so low.
It's so
There's
low.
No points in this game.
Yeah, but somebody's got to score points for the Broncos, and I don't think it's Melvin Gordon. So somebody's got to do it, and it's not the defense. So
Melvin Gordon's actually one of the plays that I'm okay starting on the Broncos because I could see the Broncos just defense and running back grinding it out.
I could, like I said, but at the same time, like I said, I'm fine with both of those receivers. I think it's Not a great upside, but I think that their floor is okay. Like I said, they're not amazing plays, but I consider them rollouts. I'm willing to play them.
Frankie, are you on both or just Judy?
Just Judy. I'm still waiting to see what I get out of Sutton, so I'm looking elsewhere for a flex. Judy, I think, is going to do fine. I mean, we saw the productive year he had last year. He runs a lot of his routes out of the slot, so I think we're good. And I mean, that's just
That is the other thing is Sutton probably has Bradbury on him.
yeah. But yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be a lot of running backs, a lot of defense, and maybe Judy eats, but I don't see where any of the Giants' points are going to come from.
Sure. All right. Final Sunday game here on the slate. Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams. Middling total, 46.5 points. Rams are 7.5-point home favorites. There's not much analysis that needs to go into this one. The Bears are going to get shellacked. Andy Dalton's Andy Dalton. You start Dave Montgomery, you start Allen Robinson, you maybe start Darnell Mooney if you're reaching for a flex, but you're just praying for a long touchdown with him.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't even do that because he's been popping up on the injury report. He's technically listed as questionable right now, so he's a guy, like, he has to be crystal clear and, like, with coach hype going in for me to start him. And any kind of Q tag rolling into this weekend, I'm like, nope, I'll pass.
He's a guy where if I'm down big going into Sunday night and I have my flex spot still open, I pop him in and I'm like, just get 2 long touchdowns, please.
Start your Rams and rev up your Matt Staffords.
Yeah, the Rams should have a good game in this one.
Yep.
I love Matt Stafford. I love Cooper Kupp. I love Robert Woods. Tyler Higbee is a fine tight end play. You know, if you tell me you want to try and get some juice out of Sony Michel because you were big into the Ravens and you're just dead in the water now, I'm like, sure, because there's talk that Sony is going to be a full go for this week for the Rams.
I would say somebody who went real hard and, like, you know what, wide receivers to start. My running backs are going to be J.K. Dobbins and Travis Etienne. Let's go, and then just nothing.
Yep. Like I said, I think that there is fantasy value to be found in basically every Rams player this week, despite the middling total, because while it is only 46.5 points, the Rams should have most of those 46. So, this is not going to be a good day for the Bears if you aren't, honestly, probably if you aren't an Allen Robinson manager, because Dave Montgomery is probably going to have a fairly mediocre day this week.
He's going to have a lot of blown-up holes trying to run through.
He will get you 10 points.
Yes. The old adage, if you need 10 points, Dave Montgomery will get you 10 points. And if you need 20 points, Dave Montgomery will get you 10 points. All right, Monday night, the final game of Week 1. Baltimore Ravens, Las Vegas Raiders. We get to see who actually survives to Monday. Maybe Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, and Tyson Williams all, go hop in a car to do a road trip out to Las Vegas together and accidentally drive into the Grand Canyon or something. And the Ravens are like, yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, we talked a lot about the Ravens running backs before. I'm kind of interested in, do we start?
I start Tyson Williams this week. Yes, the Raiders are
not good.
Oh no!
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think they are gonna surprise people with how bad they are. I legitimately believe they're gonna be in the running for bottom 3 team in the league.
I was gonna say receivers.
Oh no, Sammy Watkins maybe.
Yeah, honestly, Sammy Watkins is someone I was looking to pick up with all this news of more and more people going down because they can't run the ball as much as they want anymore because they don't have the depth. So
at least their running back one, Lamar Jackson, is still healthy.
Yes.
This is a 50-point total, so we should respect the total at least a little bit.
Yeah, because as we all know, the Raiders are really good the first 4 weeks. And then they die right before Thanksgiving and they just get buried afterwards.
Sure.
But the first 4 weeks, I won't be surprised if Josh Jacobs is the RB7.
Well, he's actually limited right now. But
it still won't surprise me because he just does it. Like, every year, you're like, I think I wanted Josh Jacobs. He's just getting all the work. And then after week 4 hits, and he's just like, oh, yeah, that's why I don't want Josh Jacobs there. Sure. So Josh Jacobs is going to be amazing in this game. He's going to be the RB1 after this game because that's how it works.
So you're not worried about that Ravens front 7 at all?
Nope, because it's Josh Jacobs in the first 3 weeks. But no,
it is also Jacobs at home, which is where he typically does well.
Right, like I said, it's just everything's there. defies the logic that we try and make our calls by. But I don't doubt Brady anymore, as the Cowboys just found out, and I don't doubt Josh Jacobs in the first 3 weeks.
Okay. Aside from Josh Jacobs, any Raiders you're looking at? Are you starting
Waller,
Ruggs or
of course?
Waller is an auto start, or as close to as
So
you.
then no.
So you're not in a 50-point total. You're not interested in Ruggs or Edwards.
I might flex Edwards.
I consider them both fine flex targets,
He's,
mainly just because of the total.
For me, he's kind of in that same Callaway range where if I have both of them, I'm still probably leaning Callaway because I, have faith in the Saints more.
Sure.
But I mean, I believe in Edwards going into the year, and I think that he's going to be the wide receiver one on this team. So if someone's going to get, the throwing volume and probably the long touchdown, it's probably going to be him.
Sure. I mean, Ravens side of the ball, I think that their running back Lamar Jackson could run for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in this tilt. He also could throw for 200 yards and a touchdown. He's a great passing running back.
Yeah.
But no, all jokes aside, like Lamar Jackson should be a smash start in this one, or as close to as fantasy managers can get. I'm gonna hate myself for saying it, because I'm trying to call the Sammy Watkins week, and you can't call the Sammy Watkins week
every week.
But if there's gonna be a Sammy Watkins week, it's when they have no running backs outside of their third stringer and their quarterback. Rashad Bateman's hurt, and it's a high total.
Yep.
No, the Sammy Watkins week is going to be next week versus the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's gonna be some dumb week where he's facing off against Jair Alexander and
Oh no, I was going revenge game with that one, but
yeah. I was just saying it's like he does it in times where it defies odds.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for the Ravens though, I mean those are really the only two outside of their defense that I'm interested in starting.
Yep.
I think that the Raiders could be turnover prone enough that I'm fine rolling them out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we covered the first slate of games, guys. Now all there is left to do is set our lineups and go
Cry.
I was gonna say watch the games, maybe eat some wings, take some notes.
It's having a good stress cry as you're just sitting there like, you were supposed to be the chosen one.
Listen, Vitaly, not all of us had Zeke let us down tonight.
Listen, almost everyone had Zeke let us down last night. This night, whatever night.
It actually is officially last night at this point.
So, also, can we just pause for a minute? Happy birthday, Vitaly.
Thank you.
You're old.
I'm officially 30 and old.
You're basically dead.
Basically.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Join us on Monday. I guess we'll be filming it Sunday, but join us Monday when we release our Week 1 weekend recap as we go over all of the highlights, players who had great weekends, players who had less than stellar weekends. Hopefully there's not a lot of injuries that we have to go over.
Already had enough. No more.
If there are, we'll go over those too.
3 and Out is back.
Until then, we will see you guys Sunday.